Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study entitled Three Marys, and we've been looking at Mary, Jesus' mother. We're going to be looking at Mary of Bethany and Mary Magdalene, three women in Jesus' life on earth, um, through whom we gain a greater understanding of Him. And we just finished talking several sessions about Jesus' mother and his relationship with his mother. And so we're going to talk for a few sessions now about Mary of Bethany. We meet her in Luke chapter 10, although we have stories about her in Matthew and Mark. She's not named. We know the story of the woman who, the week that Jesus was betrayed, when Jesus was um, at a dinner given in his honor, there was a woman came who had a bottle of pure nard ointment, perfume, and broke the neck of the bottle and poured it out on Jesus. And it was this an amazing, shocking event that Jesus greatly appreciated. We're told that story in Matthew and Mark, but they don't give her a name. And Luke tells us about Mary and Martha of Bethany, but he doesn't associate her with that story. In fact, he doesn't tell that story at all. John is the one who, at the end of the first century, as he does for so many other people that we meet in the Gospels, he connects the dots and fills in some puzzle pieces so that the portrait truly emerges. We meet Mary and her sister Martha in Luke chapter 10. You can't really talk about Mary without talking about Martha. I can't tell you how much I love these two women as examples in the Bible. I mean, to me, they're as powerful as the example of David or Joshua or Boaz. I mean, they just they're important to us, and they're important teachers. And of course, they're so very different, which we know from the very first time we meet them. And the portrait that we get of them is consistent, and it just becomes richer and deeper with every encounter that we have with them. And we have the one here in Luke, and then we have two in John's Gospel, John chapter 11 and John chapter 12. They live in Bethany. They have a brother, Lazarus. It's Mary's house. Excuse me, Martha's house. Um, so we're not told that either woman has a husband, but since it's Martha's house and not Lazarus's house they live in, it seems that Martha would be a widow. They live in Bethany. Bethany is only 2 miles from Jerusalem. It's on the other side of the Mount of Olives from Jerusalem. And when Jesus came to Jerusalem that final week, and one presumes at other times as well, he would stay in Bethany, and one presumes either at Martha's house or Lazarus's house, or because it's not that big a town, or one of their friends. But he has a very deep relationship with these three siblings, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, as we'll see from John's Gospel. And so what we have, which is so deep and rich, it really is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of their relationships. But we're going to focus on Mary for the purposes of this study. So Mary lives evidently with her sister Martha, um, the adult unmarried sister of her widowed older sister. It seems this is the household we're looking at. And then their brother, their living male relative and protector, would have been legally, um, would have been there in the town as well. Jesus is coming for lunch, and he's bringing his disciples, Matthew chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. So we know these two ladies, and we always think of Martha as being the assertive one, the brave one, the one who speaks her mind, the one who looks Jesus in the eye. Mary is the quiet one, and she is. She only ever says one line in all the Gospels, and it is to repeat the thing that her sister has already said. In other words, she does not verbally share an original thought, but that doesn't mean she doesn't communicate. And it doesn't mean that she's not the bravest of all Jesus' disciples, because she is. Because like the woman with the hemorrhage, who was unclean and who was unwelcome, but who pushed through the crowd to get to Jesus anyway, this is someone who's not supposed to do what she does, but she does it anyway. And there's a leitmotif associated with her. And by that I mean there's a theme. Like there's a theme with Peter. Peter's always leaving his boat. You know, he's leaving it to follow Jesus. He's leaving it to walk on the water. He's leaving it to follow Jesus the second time. When we see Mary, she is always at the very same spot. If you had a photograph of the event, you would not have to look for Mary because she's always exactly at the same spot. Every time we meet Mary, all three times, she's at the feet of Jesus. That's where she is. That's her place. That's the place she claims for herself, place at the feet of Jesus. And she is welcome to be there. Jesus welcomes her there. Jesus says of her, wherever the gospel is preached, people are going to talk about her. And we'll see that when we look at the story of the anointing later. Well, that's the introduction to her. We're going to look at the text, Luke chapter 10, next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.